Hi.
Hello.
So, let's start with talking about how do you identify?
I identify as grey panromantic, asexual, greygender.
Mm-hmm. So you use what pronouns?
They, them.
Okay, cool. So we're here to talk about specifically you being Greygender. What is that like for you? How do you kind of experience that?
It's different on a day-to-day basis. It's not like other more, I don't know, I guess like set identities where you go trans, like across and like different from what you were born,
Yeah.
like put into the position of. Um, Most of the time it's just I if people call me she, that just it makes me feel really weird. It doesn't fit me.
Yeah.
Clothing, like sometimes I can wear really feminine things like dresses. I don't wear makeup. I've never worn makeup. Makeup's expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just sort of realizing that gender, in terms of how sexuality looks at it, is just a mess.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I think grey gender's a pretty good identity for just breaking apart like all gender and just saying
Yeah.
it's nothing. It is a grey space.
So how do you define Greygender?
Um, to me, it's sort of being outside of the gender binary without having a specific place where you fit outside of it.
Yeah.
So it's similar in a way, I guess, to agender, except there's no solid feeling of having any gender. Even agender is sort of
No gender.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's defined as having a specific place, whereas grey gender's sort of like all over the place. I guess if I had to define it in more like simple ways, I feel like sometimes my gender's like a colour spectrum. So some days I can feel really red, other days I feel really green, and sort of like that's how my gender feels. It doesn't feel like more masculine, more feminine. It's just this sort of massive colour spectrum, and at some points I fit
Yeah.
like firmly on the grey side of like just I could be anywhere, and some days I could be feeling incredibly purple.
That's a really good way of putting it. That's such a good way of visualizing it. So it's basically that even as kind of how you feel your gender changes, it doesn't really bear a relation to the gender binary. It's not like purple is closer to feeling feminine and like red is closer to feeling masculine. It's just like it's another different thing.
Yeah, it's just a different way of looking at things entirely.
Yeah.
Like if I'm feeling red, I might wear a red t-shirt, for example.
Yeah.
As I am today.
Hey.
But also, yeah, some days I feel like binding, some days I don't. Some days I'll be comfortable to wear lipstick or wear a dress, or I had my hair cut short a few months ago, and that helped me fit a lot more into who I am. Because before that, it felt like whatever, however I dressed, I'd be seen as female, as feminine, as a woman.
Yeah.
And since having it cut, I can be a lot more just androgynous looking, which means that I can completely change how I look from day to day.
Yeah. That makes sense. Because there's a lot of like assumptions that are wrong to begin with that kind of do tend to come with long hair, especially with people who are kind of read as looking more feminine. It's like if you have long hair, it's almost like a statement that you're embracing femininity as opposed to just it's hair.
Yeah. It's just hair.
Yeah.
It's like with things like wearing dresses and skirts.
Yeah.
They are seen by society as being more feminine. High heels is a really interesting one because until quite recently, it was only men, only males that wore high heels, and it was seen as their sort of authority. The higher their heels, the more authority they had. And now suddenly it's become this woman, like women and females wear high heels. And there are some news recently about dress codes within certain places of work, and they said you've got to wear heels between 2 and 4 inches, and you've got to wear 6 different types of makeup. And it's like just these ideas that have come from like literally something that is made up.
Yeah.
Gender does not exist. And yet people are looking at this thing that doesn't exist and saying, you need to wear 6 different types of makeup. What?
So much
I don't
bullshit.
even think I could name 6 different types of makeup.
Like, do they go and check how many products you're wearing? Okay, so you talked about certain gender things fitting better, or like feeling a certain way. What's that like? What does kind of fitting feel like?
It's quite hard to explain because it's literally a feeling.
Yeah.
It's not like you're answering a maths paper and you know you're going to get the answer right. It's literally a case of I will go to my wardrobe in the morning and pull out 5 different things and try them on, and most of the time I have to make do with sort of what I've got. Especially when I had longer hair, it was a case of this is going to have to do for today. But if something does fit, it feels right.
Yeah.
And the way that I'm expressing myself in that specific time feels right. Because it's a feeling, it's really hard to put into words.
Yeah. No, that makes sense though. When it comes to kind of navigating society, which obviously, for the most part, unless you're in a specific space that is kind of like a queer space or a queer accepting space or kind of more educated about this kind of stuff, society doesn't acknowledge like anything beyond the gender binary.
Yep.
How do you kind of navigate that? What kind of compromises do you make, or what kind of decisions do you make as a person who is non-binary?
For the most part, because my gender can sometimes be on the more feminine side, and I can sometimes be comfortable with that, there's actually very few people that I tell about being non-binary.
Yeah.
Which I guess is kind of sad. But yeah, so most places I will assume that people won't understand. If I get into a situation where it's making me really, really uncomfortable, or if I know someone is going to have to know, then I will tell them, I'll explain sort of how it affects me. But for the most part, unfortunately, I do sort of keep it to myself. Because there are, I feel, more important parts of my identity that I would express first. This is something that, although can really upset me if it goes wrong, is something that I've made a decision to make more internal rather than more expressive. But if I am with people in the community, then I think I'm quite open with it. And it's a lot easier for people to understand what it is. And they don't ask any awkward questions. Or I just think society needs to buck up its ideas about gender. It's got a lot better over the last few years.
Definitely.
And especially trans people and non-binary people are becoming a lot more sort of obvious in terms of people in society looking at them. But even then, there's still people not accepting others' pronouns. Like, I can't remember what they're called. Jack someone, YouTube cooking channel, I think. I think that's where they started. And they write articles for The Guardian. And so The Guardian always refers to them as them. But loads of other places, every single time they come up, mentions she. And it's just that they've literally told everyone what pronouns to use. And just people can't understand they, them pronouns. And I don't understand why.
No, because even grammatically, it's a thing that has always existed. As a neutral option. But people conveniently forget that.
Yeah, just seeing forms and things with like he stroke she.
Oh, yeah.
Is just why? Why are you doing this to yourself?
It's irritating more than like genuinely hurtful. It's just, why?
There's no reason for them to do it. Just use them.
Yeah. Perfectly good pronoun, it's right there.
Yeah.